It was a cold Monday morning when the school bell rang for the first time that semester. Students were rushing through the hallways, laughing, chatting, shouting names across the corridor. Everyone looked fresh, happy, noisy, except one boy. He walked slowly through the main gate, holding his backpack tightly on both shoulders. His name was Eli Carter. He was new, quiet, and strangely calm for someone his age. While the others wore casual sweaters or hoodies, Eli wore something different, a small, neatly pressed military-style jacket. The jacket looked too serious for a child. Dark green with 2 silver buttons shining under the morning sun. A small American flag patch rested on his shoulder, and a name tag Carter was stitched above the pocket. As he stepped inside, students started to whisper, "Why is he wearing that?" One girl said, "Looks like he thinks he's in the army," another boy joked, laughing loudly. Eli didn't respond. He just kept walking, his boots tapping on the clean floor, slow, steady. Disciplined, the security guard at the entrance gave him a curious look. "You new here, son?" Eli nodded politely. "Yes, sir." Sir made the guard blink. No student ever called him sir. "All right. Classroom 6B is down the hall," he said softly. Almost out of respect, when Eli entered his classroom, the teacher, Miss Lorna, turned around from the whiteboard. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Oh, you must be the new student. Come in." He nodded and stood beside the desk, posture straight, eyes down, hands behind his back like a trained soldier. The class chuckled. "What's up, cadet?" Someone whispered, "Are you lost, Captain?" Another laughed. Eli stayed still. "No reaction, Miss." Lorna frowned. "You can relax, dear. This isn't the army." He looked up quietly and said, "Yes, ma'am." Something about the way he said it, firm, respectful, emotionless, made her uncomfortable. She sighed and pointed at the last seat. "Go sit there." As Eli walked past the students, the whispers continued. "Look at his hair. It's too short. Who wears boots to school? Maybe he's playing dress-up." Eli ignored all of it. He took his seat, opened his bag slowly, and placed a clean notebook on the desk. Inside the bag, wrapped in a plastic folder, was something he guarded carefully, a folded letter. Every time someone laughed, his hand touched the letter as if it gave him strength. At lunch, while he sat alone under a tree near the playground, the others played football, shouting, running, and throwing things. He unwrapped a sandwich and quietly ate it, eyes staring at the clouds. A small smile crossed his face, the kind that hides sadness. A group of boys approached him. Their leader, Jason, grinned. "So, Sergeant," he said mockingly, "where's your army base?" "In your imagination." The other boys laughed. Eli looked up calmly. "My base is far from here." Jason frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Eli didn't answer. He finished his sandwich, folded the wrapper neatly, and placed it in his bag. Jason snatched the bag suddenly. "Let's see what you're hiding, soldier boy. Give it back," Eli said softly. Jason opened the zipper and froze. Inside was a photograph of a woman in uniform, medals on her chest, standing beside a fighter jet. "She? Your mom?" Jason asked. Eli nodded. Jason laughed cruelly. "Figures. Does she boss you around too? Maybe she shines your shoes." The others laughed louder. Eli stood up slowly. "You shouldn't say that," Jason smirked. "Or what?" "You'll call the army." Eli's eyes hardened. "You'll regret this one day." Jason threw the bag at him and walked away, muttering, "Freak." Eli picked up the photo carefully. A tear slid down his cheek, but he wiped it quickly and whispered, "Mom, I didn't fight back." "Just like you said." The next morning, Eli arrived early. The hallways were empty, silent. He stood in front of the honor board, a wall filled with pictures of students who had achieved awards, medals, and certificates. He touched one of the glass frames gently and said softly, "Someday I'll be here too." When Ms. Lorna entered, she was surprised to see him already sitting at his desk, bag organized, homework done. She asked, "You came early again?" "Yes, ma'am. It's better to be early than late." She sighed. "You don't have to act like a soldier all the time. Eli. He looked at her and said quietly, "That's how I was raised." Later that day, during the science period, Eli raised his hand to answer a question. The teacher ignored him. Another student gave a wrong answer, and the teacher smiled anyway. Eli lowered his hand slowly, in the afternoon, while cleaning the classroom. Ms. Lorna saw Eli picking up paper bits others had thrown. "Why are you doing that?" "That's the janitor's job," she said. Eli replied softly, "Ma'am, in the army, we clean our own mess." She rolled her eyes. "This isn't the army, boy." The days passed and the bullying worsened. Some teachers thought Eli was trying to show off his discipline. Others simply didn't like his seriousness. Whenever he stood straight or said "yes, ma'am," they mocked him. At recess, Jason's gang pushed him in the hallway. Eli didn't fall. He kept his balance like he had been trained to. Jason growled, "You think you're strong?" "Try laughing for once," Eli replied. "There's nothing funny." The boys surrounded him, but he stayed still, calm, silent. A teacher walked by, saw the scene, and instead of stopping it, said, "Eli, stop causing trouble again." He looked confused, but didn't argue. Arguing wasn't part of discipline. That night, Eli sat on his bed, holding the folded letter. His eyes scanned the words again and again. It was from his mother. Her handwriting was neat, strong, and full of emotion. "My brave boy, remember, when people don't understand you, stay calm. The world may laugh at discipline because they don't know what sacrifice feels like. You carry our name, and one day they'll know who you are. Until then, stand tall, my soldier." Eli pressed the letter against his chest. "I miss you, Mom," he whispered. The next day, something unusual happened. During the morning assembly, the principal announced that a new student had joined Eli Carter. She asked him to come forward. Eli walked to the front, saluted instinctively, and said, "Good morning, ma'am." Students laughed. The teachers exchanged awkward looks. The principal frowned. "We don't salute here, son," he nodded. "Understood, ma'am." Laughter filled the hall. After assembly, the principal called Eli to her office. "Eli, why did you salute? Are you trying to make fun of the school?" Eli shook his head. "No, ma'am. That's how I greet elders." "Where are your parents?" "My mother is away on duty, ma'am. My father," he paused, "passed away 2 years ago." Her expression softened slightly. "I see. Well, maybe try blending in a bit more. The other students feel uncomfortable." "Yes, ma'am." She nodded, not unkindly, and said, "You can go." As Eli left, she noticed his bag slightly open. A paper corner peeked out the letter. Curiosity struck her. "Wait, Eli. What's that paper?" He froze. "It's personal, ma'am." "Let me see it." He hesitated, but then handed it over respectfully. The principal unfolded it, and her eyes widened as she read the heading at the top. "From the office of General Aurora Carter, United States Army." She read the signature 4-star General Aurora Carter. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Eli, who stood quietly, eyes lowered. "Your mother is General Carter?" she asked in disbelief. Eli nodded slowly. The principal stared at him, silent for a few seconds. She folded the letter carefully, placed it back in his bag, and whispered, "I understand now." Eli turned to leave. Before walking out, he looked back and said softly, "She'll visit soon, ma'am." The principal froze. "When?" she asked. Eli gave a small, mysterious smile. "When it's time." He left the office, his boots echoing down the hallway, steady, proud, unbroken. The camera could almost zoom in on the principal's face. Her eyes still wide, her lips slightly parted as she stared at the closed door. The sound of the ticking clock filled the silence. She slowly looked down at the letter again, the official seal shining faintly under the light. Her whisper was barely audible. "Oh my God, a 4-star general." Fade to black. The next morning, Eli walked into school early again. His uniform jacket was clean, shoes polished, hair trimmed perfectly. He looked calm, but inside carried yesterday's whispers like tiny cuts. When the morning assembly began, students gathered on the field. The principal's eyes found Eli standing straight in the back row, his hands behind his back like a soldier. "Relax, boy," one teacher said, half laughing. Eli didn't move. A few students giggled. Jason, the bully, whispered loud enough for others to hear, "Look, it's Captain Serious again." Everyone laughed. Eli stayed silent, eyes forward. During class, Ms. Lorna decided to test him. "Eli," she said with a smirk, "since you think you're so disciplined, come and write the answer on the board." He stood up, walked to the front, and solved the problem easily. The class went quiet until she said coldly, "Sit down, soldier boy. You don't need to show off here." Laughter filled the room again. Eli lowered his eyes and returned to his seat as he sat. Something slipped from his pocket, a small photo of his mother in uniform. Jason snatched it up before he could react. "Who's this, huh? Your drill sergeant?" The class roared with laughter. "Give it back," Eli said softly. Jason waved it around. Maybe she told him to march to school every morning. Even the teacher didn't stop them. Eli walked quietly to Jason, took the photo back, and said, "One day, you'll wish you hadn't said that." His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold, unshaken. When he sat down again, he placed the photo carefully in his notebook. Under his breath, he whispered, "I'm still standing, Mom, just like you taught me." That afternoon, in the principal's office, a folded letter lay on her desk, General Aurora Carter's letter. She stared at it again and whispered, "They really have no idea who they're laughing at." That night, Eli sat by the window, holding his mother's letter again. The moonlight touched the paper gently as he whispered each line to himself. "Stay calm. Stand tall. One day, they'll understand who you are." He smiled faintly, but his eyes were full of pain. The next morning at school, he walked quietly to class. His classmates stopped whispering when he entered, not out of respect, but curiosity. Everyone had seen the photo now. Rumors spread fast. "His mom's a soldier," one girl said. "No," another whispered. "Someone said she's a general." Jason laughed. "General? Yeah, right. He's lying." He just kept writing in his notebook, drawing a small star in the corner of the page. During lunch, a teacher named Mr. Reed watched him from a distance. He looked uneasy, whispering to another staff member, "I think I've seen that name before, Carter. Somewhere in the news." That evening, after everyone left, Mr. Reed went into the staff room and made a phone call. "Hello? Can you check something for me?" "A student named Eli Carter. His mother's name is Aurora Carter." There was a pause on the line. Then a quiet voice replied, "Sir, that's General Aurora Carter, 4-star." Mr. Reed froze, the phone trembling in his hand. Oh my God. The next morning, he couldn't look at Eli the same way again. But he stayed silent, because now he knew the letter wasn't just from a soldier's mother. It was from a legend. The rumors had now reached every corner of the school. Some students began to whisper with curiosity, while others mocked Eli even more. But this time, teachers were whispering too, in the staff room. As Lorna said quietly, "If it's true that his mother is a general, why hasn't she come here yet?" The principal frowned. "We'll find out soon. I've scheduled a parent-teacher meeting. Let's see who shows up." When Eli heard about the meeting, his face stayed calm, but his eyes flickered with something unreadable. He just said softly, "She's busy, ma'am." The next day, the parking lot filled with cars and parents. Children waved to their families, excited and happy. Eli stood alone under a tree, holding his file. Jason walked by and grinned. "No one's coming for you, soldier boy?" Eli stayed silent. Jason laughed and walked away. Minutes later, a black SUV slowly stopped near the gate. For a moment, everyone turned to look. The vehicle had tinted windows and a small military flag on the front. But before anyone could see who was inside, it drove off again. The teachers chuckled. "Maybe he hired a ride just to look important," one said. The principal's smile faded when she saw Eli watching the car disappear with quiet eyes. When the meeting ended, staff gossiped again. Maybe his mother doesn't care. Maybe he made it all up. It's that evening, after everyone left. The security guard noticed Eli standing outside the military base gate, clutching his school bag. He wasn't crying. He was just waiting, looking at the gate lights as if expecting someone to walk out. The guard asked gently, You waiting for your mom, son? Eli nodded once. Yes, sir. She said she'd come when the time is right. The man nodded silently. He had seen that look before, the look of a soldier's child who understood patience. The wind blew softly. The sound of distant helicopters echoed in the night. Eli smiled faintly. Maybe soon, he whispered. The bullying didn't stop. It got worse. Every day, Jason and his friends found new ways to humiliate Eli. They mocked his jacket, his silence, and even the way he stood straight. One afternoon, after class, the teacher asked everyone to clean the room. While others joked around, Eli quietly started picking up papers and arranging chairs. His movements were neat and disciplined, like someone trained for order. Jason pulled out his phone and whispered, "Let's record this. Show everyone our little soldier, cleaning like a servant." He filmed Eli silently sweeping the floor, then added fake captions before posting it online. Army boy doing punishment for showing off. By the next morning, everyone in school had seen the video. Students laughed when Eli passed through the corridor. "Hey, soldier. Missed a spot?" one shouted. Eli didn't react. Not even once. At lunch, Jason slammed his tray beside Eli. "You're famous now. Maybe the army will hire you as a janitor." The whole table burst into laughter. Eli looked up slowly, his voice calm and low. "Do you ever stop?" Jason leaned closer. "Make me." Eli stood, his eyes locked on Jason's. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just said one line, quiet, steady, and chilling. "You'll regret laughing one day." Jason's grin faded for the first time. That night, Eli sat on his bed, reading his mother's letter again. His phone buzzed. He picked it up and heard a familiar, deep voice, calm, powerful. "Son, it's me." "I saw the video, Mom," Eli whispered. "Don't worry. We'll handle it." The call ended. Eli placed the phone down and smiled faintly, whispering, "They have no idea who you are, Mom." Outside his window, headlights appeared for a brief moment. A military jeep parked across the street. Then it slowly drove away into the dark. Something was changing, and the school had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, the school buzzed with gossip. Everyone had seen the video of Eli. Some laughed. Some felt sorry, but no one spoke up. When Eli entered the hallway, whispers followed him like shadows. But he didn't look down. His steps were firm, eyes straight ahead. Inside the principal's office, Mr. Dalton sat with a worried look. He had received an official call last night, a short, formal message from someone in the Defense Department. It mentioned Eli's full name and his mother's rank. 4-star general. He whispered to himself, stunned. The air in the room felt heavy. He suddenly realized how serious things could become. He called in Miss Turner, Eli's homeroom teacher. "Miss Turner, about the video circulating." "We must act fast," he said quietly. She nodded nervously. "The students, they're just kids. They didn't mean harm." The principal's voice grew sharp. "This isn't a prank anymore. That boy's mother could shut this school down if she wants to." Miss Turner's face turned pale. "What do we do?" "We pretend we're fixing things," Mr. Dalton said coldly. "Hold a meeting. Make it look like we care. Delete the videos. Keep things quiet until this blows over." Meanwhile, Eli sat in the library, staring at the window. He could feel something was happening, people watching him differently, teachers whispering. But he didn't know about the principal's fake plan to cover up the truth. At lunch, a small note slipped under his tray. He opened it. It said only 2 words, "Stay calm." "Mom," Eli's heart pounded. He looked around. No one was there. How did she get the note inside the school? Far away, in a military base, General Helena Brooks stared at her screen. On it, the viral video of her son being bullied. Her expression was stone cold. She whispered, "Time to pay a visit." It was Friday morning. The school seemed unusually quiet. Even Jason and his friends weren't laughing as loud as before. Rumors were spreading. Someone important was visiting. But no one knew who Eli sat alone in the cafeteria, his untouched breakfast on the tray. His eyes were tired but calm. He felt something was coming, something big. In the office, Principal Dalton adjusted his tie nervously. He had received an email from the Defense Department that morning, a short, formal line that made his hands shake. General Helena Brooks will be visiting today for an informal inspection. The name burned in his mind. Helena Brooks, the 4-star general, a woman known for her discipline and zero tolerance for injustice. He hadn't realized until now. Eli's last name was Brooks. At 10 a.m., a black SUV stopped in front of the school. 2 uniformed soldiers stepped out first, scanning the area. Then, a tall woman in a military coat stepped onto the sidewalk. Her expression was calm but commanding. Her presence alone made people stop and stare. Students peered through windows. "Who is she?" one whispered. "She looks like someone from the army," another said. Eli was in class when the door opened. The principal walked in, his smile fake and shaky. "Eli Brooks, please come with me," he said softly. Eli stood up, confused, and followed him through the hallway. When they reached the main office, he froze. His mother was standing there, General Helena Brooks. The sunlight hit the metals on her coat, making them shine like fire. Eli's eyes widened. "Mom." Her serious face softened for just a second. "Hello, soldier," she said quietly. Principal Dalton forced a smile. "General Brooks, it's such an honor, too." She raised a hand to stop him. Her eyes were cold, sharp. "Save it. I'm here because of what your school allowed to happen." The room went silent. Eli looked down, his hand shaking slightly. The general placed her hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, son. I'll handle this." Outside the office, Jason and his friends peeked through the window. Their faces turned pale. "Wait, that's his mom?" Jason whispered. "Dude, she's a general." For the first time, Jason didn't have a joke. He just swallowed hard as the door closed. Inside, General Brooks sat across from the principal. "Let's talk about what your teachers call discipline," she said. Her voice was calm, and that was what made it terrifying. The storm had arrived. The entire school went silent that morning. Teachers whispered in hallways. Students peeked through windows. And no one dared to laugh. In the conference room, General Helena Brooks sat at the long wooden table. Her uniform gleamed under the lights, medals shining like warnings. Beside her sat Principal Dalton, pale and sweating. Across the table, 3 teachers fidgeted nervously. The door opened. Eli stepped in quietly. His mother nodded toward him. "Sit, son. You have a right to hear this." Eli obeyed, sitting at the far corner. He didn't speak, just watched. The principal began nervously. "General Brooks, first let me assure you we had no idea your son was being mistreated. The video? It was just childish behavior. Childish behavior." Her voice cut through the room like a blade. She leaned forward. "Let me tell you something, Principal Dalton. In my world, disrespect and cruelty are not childish. They are dangerous habits that grow into corruption." No one dared to breathe. She turned to the teachers. "Did anyone here report the bullying?" No answer. "Did anyone stop it?" Still silence. Finally, Miss Turner whispered, "We thought it was just teasing." He never complained. General Brooks looked at her sharply. "He didn't complain because he was raised to endure, not to whine. That discipline came from me. But it's your job to protect, not to ignore." The room trembled in her quiet anger. She pulled out her phone and placed it on the table. "Here," she said. "Watch this." She pressed play, the viral video. Eli sweeping the floor while students laughed. The sound echoed in the silent room. Jason's voice could be heard in the background. "Hey, soldier, clean faster." Miss Turner covered her mouth. The principal turned red. General Brooks let the video end before saying softly, "This is your school. Your students, your failure." Silence grew unbearable. Then she stood up. "I'm not here to destroy careers, but I will make sure this never happens again, not to my son, not to anyone." She turned to Eli. "Come, we're leaving." "Wow." As they walked out, whispers followed them down the hall. Students stood frozen, watching the powerful woman walk beside her silent son. No one dared to laugh. Not even Jason at the exit. She paused. She looked back at the school building and said quietly, "They wanted to teach my son a lesson. Now they've learned one instead." The wind blew through her uniform as she and Eli walked toward the black SUV, but something wasn't over yet. Jason watched from the window, guilt twisting in his stomach. For the first time, he'd felt something he never had before: shame. The weekend felt heavier than usual. Jason couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Eli quiet, calm, sweeping the floor while he laughed behind the camera. Now, those laughs sounded cruel, heartless. He scrolled through his phone, looking at the old video still saved in his gallery. His finger hovered over the delete button, but he couldn't press it. It was like the screen itself was judging him. At breakfast, his mom noticed his silence. "Jason, you okay?" He shrugged. "Just tired." But deep down, he wasn't tired. He was ashamed. When he returned to school on Monday, the atmosphere was different. No more mocking whispers. Teachers were strict, serious, and quiet. Even his own friends avoided the topic. At lunch, Jason saw Eli sitting alone under a tree, reading. For the first time, Jason didn't see him as the weird soldier kid. He saw someone stronger than everyone else there. He took a deep breath and walked over. "Hey, Eli?" Eli looked up slowly. "What do you want?" Jason hesitated, then said quietly, "I'm sorry for everything." Eli didn't reply. He just stared for a moment, then went back to reading. Jason stood there awkwardly. "I know you probably hate me," he said softly, "but I just want you to know, I'm deleting the video. And if you want, I'll tell everyone the truth." Eli looked up again. His eyes weren't angry, just tired. "You can't delete what people already remember," he said. Then he stood and walked away. Jason felt his throat tighten. He'd been popular, loud, and fearless, but now he felt small. He didn't know why, but part of him wanted to make things right. Later that day, Jason went to the teacher's office. "Miss Turner," he said, "can I talk to you?" She looked up, surprised. "Yes, Jason. I was the one who filmed the video. I started everything. It wasn't Eli's fault." She sighed. "I know. The principal already told me. But thank you for admitting it." Jason nodded, then left. As he walked down the hall, he passed the trophy case and stopped. Inside, he saw an old photo of the school's honor ceremony from years ago. Standing among the award winners was a woman in uniform. The same woman who came last week, General Helena Brooks. Jason blinked. "What?" he whispered. He leaned closer. Below the photo, the plaque read, "Helena Brooks, former student, honor, graduate, and community hero." Jason's eyes widened. Eli's mom wasn't just any general. She was once a student in the same school he bullied her son in. He stepped back, heart racing. This wasn't just karma. This was history repeating itself. Jason couldn't stop staring at the old photo. The smiling faces, the faded uniforms, the golden frame, and there, in the middle, General Helena Brooks, standing tall even as a student. He whispered to himself, "She went to this same school." His heart raced. He pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the plaque. Something told him there was a story behind it, one that nobody remembered anymore. After class, Jason went to the library. He searched the school archives, dusty yearbooks stacked in a forgotten corner. He flipped through pages until he found her Helena Brooks, class of 1998, under her photo. A small line caught his eye, transferred after an incident with school staff. Jason frowned. What incident? He kept reading, but the next page was missing, torn out. Now his curiosity turned into obsession. He went to the librarian. "Miss Claire, do you know anything about Helena Brooks when she was a student here?" The old librarian looked at him carefully. "That name again?" she muttered. "Yes, I remember her. A quiet, disciplined girl. Some teachers didn't like her confidence. They said she acted like she was better than others." Jason leaned forward. "What happened to her?" The librarian hesitated. One day, she stood up to a teacher who insulted her for wearing her father's army badge. The next week, she was transferred. Everyone said her family pulled her out after that. Jason froze. So the same school that bullied Eli had once humiliated his mother too. He left the library quietly, the truth hitting him like a wave. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a cycle of cruelty, and Eli's family had suffered it twice. As he walked down the hall, saw Eli again, sitting alone on the steps, sketching something in his notebook. Jason hesitated, then sat beside him. Eli didn't look up. "You're still following me?" he said calmly. Jason shook his head. "No, I found something. About your mom." That made Eli stop drawing. Jason showed him the picture on his phone, the old photo of Helena in the school's trophy case. Eli stared at it silently. "That's her," he said quietly. "She never told me she studied here." Jason nodded. "They treated her the same way they treated you." Eli closed his notebook slowly. For the first time, Jason saw something new in his eyes. Not anger, not sadness, but understanding. "Maybe that's why she didn't want me to complain," Eli whispered. "She already knew what this place was like." Jason looked down. "I'm sorry, Eli. Really. I think your mom came back not just for you, but for something bigger." Eli looked at him, his voice calm but firm. "She came back to finish what she started." Outside, dark clouds began to form above the school. A storm was coming again. The sky turned gray above the school. Thunder rumbled in the distance as if the heavens themselves were warning everyone something big was about to happen. Inside the office, Principal Dalton paced nervously. The visit from General Brooks still haunted him. He had tried to act normal, but deep down, he knew she wasn't done. And he was right at 10 a.m. A message arrived in his inbox. 2. Principal Dalton subject, scheduled assembly. Today at 1 p.m. Speaker, General Helena Brooks.
Right.
"She's coming back?" he whispered. He called Miss Turner immediately. "Cancel classes after lunch. She's holding an assembly and I don't know what she's planning." Meanwhile, in the hallway, Eli quietly packed his books. Jason walked beside him. "She's really coming back?" Jason asked. Eli nodded slowly. "Yes, but not just for me." By noon, the entire school gathered in the auditorium. Whispers filled the air. "Why is the army lady here again? I heard she's shutting down the school." Then the doors opened. General Helena Brooks walked in, not with soldiers, but alone. Her boots clicked against the floor with precision. Her eyes scanned the crowd, calm but sharp. The principal forced a smile. "General Brooks." "What a surprise!" She raised a hand. No introductions needed. She walked to the stage and stood before hundreds of students and teachers. The microphone picked up her voice, firm, steady, and full of power. "I once walked these same halls," she began. Her words made the room freeze. "I was a student here. I faced the same cruelty my son faced. I was told to stay quiet, to obey, and to forget. I didn't forget." Everyone stared, stunned. Even Jason felt goosebumps. General Brooks continued. "This school was supposed to teach respect, not fear. But it failed both then and now. And that ends today." The principal tried to interrupt, but her voice cut through him like thunder. "Sit down, Mr. Dalton." She turned back to the crowd. "My son Eli didn't need to fight back. His silence spoke louder than your laughter. His discipline was stronger than your hate." Her words echoed across the hall. Some students lowered their heads. Others wiped silent tears. Then she said something that made everyone look up. "Starting today, this school will have a new code, one that values honor, empathy, and courage. I've spoken to the district board. A new leadership team will take over." Principal Dalton's face turned white. What do you mean?" he stammered. She looked at him coldly. "You're being replaced, effective immediately." Gasps filled the room. Eli sat quietly in the front row, watching as justice unfolded, not through shouting, but through calm power. The general looked at him and gave a faint, proud nod. The storm outside roared louder, but inside, for the first time, Eli smiled. The next week, the school felt like a different place. The laughter that once mocked had grown quiet, replaced by whispers of respect. Walls that had once echoed with insults now carried a strange calm. A new principal, Mrs. Raymond, walked through the halls, kind, strict, and fair. Her first rule was simple: no student stands alone. Eli noticed the changes slowly. No one laughed when he wore his jacket anymore. Teachers greeted him warmly. Even Jason's group had stopped their teasing, but Eli didn't feel like celebrating. He still walked alone, still spoke little. Something inside him hadn't healed yet. One afternoon, Mrs. Raymond called him to her office. "Eli," she said gently, "your mother has done a lot for this school. But I want to hear about you. How are you doing?" Eli hesitated. He wasn't used to adults asking him that. "I'm fine," he said softly. She smiled kindly. "You're strong, Eli. But even strong people need someone to talk to." He nodded politely and left, but her words stayed in his mind. Later at lunch, Jason walked over. He looked nervous, holding a small envelope. "Hey, I made something for you," Eli frowned. "What is it?" Jason handed it over. "Just open it." Inside was a photo, the old picture from the trophy case, showing General Helena Brooks as a young student. Below it, Jason had written in neat handwriting, "Some stories repeat until someone ends them. You and your mom ended this one." Eli stared at the words. His throat tightened. For the first time, he smiled at Jason, a real smile. "Thank you," he said quietly. That evening, at home, General Brooks found Eli sitting at his desk, the photo framed beside his books. He looked up and said, "Mom, you finished your fight. I think it's time I start mine to make things better here." She nodded proudly. "That's my soldier." Outside, the sky was clear. No storm, no thunder. Just sunlight breaking through the clouds, shining on the school that once brought only pain. For the first time, Eli felt peace. A week later, Mrs. Raymond announced a special morning assembly. No one knew what it was about. The students gathered in the hall, whispering and guessing. Eli sat quietly in the second row, his small military jacket neatly pressed as always. Jason sat a few seats behind him, holding a folded paper in his shaking hands. He hadn't told anyone what he was about to do. Mrs. Raymond stepped up to the microphone. "Good morning, students. Today, one of your classmates has something important to say." Jason stood slowly. Whispers filled the air. He walked up to the stage, every step heavier than the last. When he reached the microphone, he looked out at hundreds of faces, faces that had once laughed with him. He took a deep breath. "Most of you know me. I'm Jason, and I'm the one who made that video about Eli." The hall fell silent. Even the teachers froze. Jason continued, voice trembling, but honest. "I thought it was funny. I thought making someone else small would make me big, but I was wrong." He looked toward Eli. "I hurt someone who never did anything to me. Someone stronger than all of us." He paused, his throat tight. "I want to say sorry, not just to Eli, but to everyone who watched and stayed quiet. Because silence helps bullies more than laughter does." For a moment, no one moved. Then Eli stood up slowly. He walked toward the stage, the sound of his boots echoing softly. Everyone watched as he climbed the steps and stood beside Jason. Eli looked at him, calm, serious. "You can't change what you did," he said quietly. Jason nodded. "I know." Eli extended his hand. "But you can change who you are." The hall erupted into applause. Teachers smiled, students clapped, some even wiped tears. It wasn't just an apology. It was a lesson one the whole school finally understood. Mrs. Raymond smiled proudly. "Today," she said, "we didn't just fix mistakes. We grew stronger together." From the back of the hall, General Helena Brooks watched silently. Her face softened as she saw her son shake hands with the boy who once hurt him. She whispered to herself, "That's the kind of victory no rank can give." As the applause filled the room, Eli looked up for the first time, proud not of his uniform, but of his heart A few days after the assembly, life at school began to settle. Eli no longer sat alone. Jason and a few others often joined him at lunch, not because they felt sorry, but because they wanted to learn from him. The hallways that once echoed with laughter now felt calm and respectful. It was peaceful. Almost too peaceful. One morning, Eli arrived home to find a sealed envelope waiting on the kitchen table. It had a gold military stamp on it, the Army base emblem. His heart skipped a beat. He called out, "Mom, this came for you." But General Brooks wasn't home yet. Curious, he turned the letter over and noticed his own name written neatly on it. To Cadet Eli Brooks. He opened it carefully. Inside was a short letter, typed neatly on official paper. It read, "Young man, your discipline, courage, and silence under pressure have reached the attention of the Army Youth Leadership Program. We would like to invite you to join our junior leadership camp this summer. You've already proven what a true soldier's heart looks like." Eli stared at the paper, stunned. For a moment, he couldn't move. Then he smiled softly, a quiet, proud smile. That evening when his mother returned, he handed her the letter. She read it silently, then looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You earned this, Eli," she said quietly. He shook his head. "No, Mom, we earned it. You taught me everything." For the first time, the general, the woman who never showed weakness, pulled her son into a hug. "You taught me too," she whispered. "You reminded me that strength isn't in power, it's in forgiveness." The next day, Mrs. Raymond announced the news during morning assembly. The entire school clapped as Eli stood up. Jason whistled and shouted, "That's our soldier." This time, everyone laughed, but not to mock him. It was laughter of pride. Eli looked at the crowd and smiled shyly. For the first time, he didn't feel like the new boy in uniform, felt like he belonged. But as he left the stage, his mother's phone buzzed with a message from the military base. She read it, and her expression changed, serious again. The message said, "Urgent new deployment order. Immediate response required." The peace they had found might not last long. That night, the house was quiet, too quiet. Eli sat at the dinner table, his fingers tracing the edges of his camp invitation letter. But his mother's silence across the table said something was wrong. General Brooks had that same distant look, the one she wore before every major deployment. Her uniform was already pressed. Her boots stood ready by the door. Eli finally asked, "Mom, ... Are you leaving again?" She didn't answer right away. Then she sighed deeply. "Yes, Eli," the base called. "They need me." The words fell heavy in the room. He looked down at his plate, pushing the food around with his fork. "Is it dangerous?" He whispered. She hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. "It's part of my duty," she said gently. "But I'll be careful. I promise." Eli tried to smile, but his eyes filled with tears. He had seen her leave before, but this time felt different, deeper. Maybe because he was older now, or maybe because they had finally started to heal. Later that night, she went into his room. He was sitting on the floor, polishing his small uniform jacket. Without looking up, he said, "I'll wear it every day until you come back." She knelt beside him. "You've made me proud already, Eli. Just remember what we stand for: respect, courage, and kindness." He looked at her and whispered in forgiveness. She smiled softly. "Exactly." Before dawn, Eli woke to the sound of a car engine. He ran outside barefoot, still in his pajamas. His mother stood by the Jeep, her cap pulled low, the morning fog swirling around her. "Mom," he called out. She turned and opened her arms. He ran straight into her hug. "Come back soon," he said, voice trembling. "I will," she promised, kissing his forehead. "And when I do, I want to see that junior leadership badge on your chest." She climbed into the Jeep, and within moments it disappeared down the road. Eli stood there, watching, until the red taillights faded into the mist. The next morning at school, he walked in quietly, his jacket shining, his shoulders straight. But this time, everyone greeted him with smiles and respect. Mrs. Raymond put a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Your mom made all of us proud, Eli, and so did you." He smiled, holding back tears. But as he looked out the classroom window, his heart whispered a silent prayer for his mother's safety. And for her return, weeks turned into months. Spring melted into summer, and Eli's days passed in quiet routine. Every morning, he polished his small jacket. Every night, he checked his mother's last text, "Be strong, my soldier." He hadn't heard from her since. At school, everyone knew. Teachers smiled kindly. Classmates respected his silence. Even Jason, the boy who once laughed at him, now sat beside him in every class, helping him with homework. But one morning, something felt different. As Eli walked through the hallway, he noticed teachers whispering near the principal's office. Mrs. Raymond looked pale. Eli's stomach twisted. He stopped at the door, hearing fragments of their conversation. A mission gone wrong. Still no confirmation. They're searching, his hands trembled. Before anyone could stop him, he pushed the door open. "Please, tell me what happened," he whispered. The principal looked at him with soft, tearful eyes. "Eli," she said gently, "there was an operation overseas. Your mother's team was caught in a blast. The Army hasn't confirmed Eli didn't let her finish." He shook his head, backing away slowly. No, she promised she'd come back." He ran out of the room. Through the hall, down the steps, into the open field behind the school, he dropped to his knees, clutching his jacket. His tears soaked the fabric, the same jacket that had once made. Everyone laughed. Jason and a few teachers found him there minutes later. Nobody spoke. They just stood silently beside him. Days passed. A small ceremony was held at the school. Students placed flowers near the flagpole, and Mrs. Raymond gave a short speech about bravery and sacrifice. Eli stood in front, holding his mother's old medal. But deep down, something told him it wasn't over. He didn't feel her gone. He felt her out there. Then, one ordinary morning weeks later, Eli was sitting in class when the intercom buzzed. "Eli Brooks, please come to the front office." His heart pounded as he walked the long hallway. The secretary smiled mysteriously. "Someone's here for you." He turned the corner and froze. Standing there in full uniform, covered in dust, and wearing a tired but warm smile, was General Brooks. Eli couldn't believe it. "Mom," he whispered, his voice cracking. She nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. "I promised I'd come back, didn't I?" He ran straight into her arms as the whole office erupted in cheers. Teachers cried. Even the principal wiped her eyes. Outside, the students gathered near the window, watching the reunion in silence, a moment no one would ever forget. That afternoon, the school held an emergency assembly. General Brooks stood on stage beside her son. She looked at the crowd and said, "I came here not as a soldier today, but as a mother. You all have the power to choose kindness over cruelty, respect over laughter. My son taught this school what discipline really means. He fought bullies not with fists, but with patience. And that's true strength." The gym filled with thunderous applause. Eli looked up at his mother, eyes shining. For the first time, he saw not just a hero, but a human, as the applause faded. Mrs. Raymond whispered to herself, "Sometimes it takes one brave child to change an entire town." Eli smiled, gripping his jacket proudly. He didn't need to hide it anymore. That uniform wasn't just fabric, it was a story of courage, pain, and love. And that day, the boy in uniform finally stood tall, not as the kid everyone mocked, but as the symbol of a mother's strength and a son's heart,